today we want to talk about the elements of context. Why is context important when you're studying the Bible? Why do we need to keep it in mind? And what elements of context should we be concerned about and looking into? So probably the first one I think of is a cultural context and a time frame or a setting context, I guess, with who wrote it, who's the author, what do we know about Peter in this case for 2 Peter. It helps to know who's writing because you know where they're coming from, and so you kind of understand them. Whom did he write to? Who are the recipients of this letter? What was going on at the time? Because that might help us understand why he said some things that he said. And then the setting. Where did they live and what time was it? It's really great when studying a historical passage to remember this is not 2023 America that he was writing in this context. They weren't living in that context. So doing a little research at the time and the people is very helpful when you're studying that.
Yeah, I thought of an example when we were preparing for this. I had actually just read earlier in that day this specific section of scripture, and it was really relevant because the context is so important. The culture is so important. The setting, the time frame, all of that was so important to being able to understand the scripture. So I'm going to read this to you guys. It's 2 Chronicles 32, 7 through 8. And it's probably something that you've heard used out of context before. But it says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be dismayed because of the king of Assyria, nor because of all the multitude which is with him. For the one with us is greater than the one with him. With him is only an arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord of our God to help us and to fight our battles." And the people relied on the words of Hezekiah, king of Judah. Okay, so let me take that out of context and apply that to my life. And I might be tempted to say that, okay, I know the Lord, so therefore the Lord is with me in every single battle that I enter into of my own volition. The Lord is going to fight it because I know the Lord. And that is not at all what's being said here. And we certainly don't want you to just kind of pull that little chunk out of this whole story, which is really talking about how the Lord told them to go fight this battle. Right. The Lord brought them there. The Lord promised his faithfulness in this battle. These verses are not prescriptive for all kings in all battles, for all of time, and certainly not for little Suzanne who likes to pick her own battles in this time. Yes, the Lord is always with me, but it is not to say that I can enter into anything I want to and assume that the Lord's gonna back me up and beat whoever and bless whatever situation, beat whoever I encounter. So really just not only the context within the chapter, but within the entire book, and then the context within who's the people group specifically referenced and the time frame in which it's referenced. And there's a lot of aspects to context, but that's just an example that I thought was pretty relevant.
Yeah. So beyond setting and culture and time period, then we have to look at the context of the actual book itself and look at the paragraph that it's in, and then look at the verses that come around it. I'd say my favorite out of context passage, that would be wrong, is, I think it's maybe the most taken out of context verse, Philippians 4:13, right? "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And we just rip it out and go, yeah, I can run that marathon because Jesus strengthens me, or I can rip that phone book because Jesus strengthens me. And that is completely not the context of the passage. The whole context of Philippians 4 around verse 13 is contentment, right? I can be content with little, I can be content with much because Christ strengthens me. So if we understand the context of the verses, the chapter, now we can apply things correctly. And that's a big piece. There's understanding the verses accurately so that you apply them accurately. And it's a big issue when we're studying scripture. My personal tale about the importance of interpretation is not from interpreting the Bible, but I was on a run long time ago, and I was running through a neighborhood, and I was in a neighborhood, so there's houses, and the door was open, and I hear these women screaming, terrified screaming, "He killed him! I can't believe he killed him!" And I'm running by going, no context. I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know if the cat killed the bird. I don't know if the husband killed the baby. I don't know if they're watching a TV show and someone's dead. So I did not run up to the door, but I did run to a payphone and called the police. I said, "Could you go find out the context of this?" So in scripture, we want to be careful as well that we don't scream, "He killed me," out of context. We want to keep our context true.
Absolutely, yeah. It's essential to accurately interpreting and applying scripture. If you don't know when in time, when in the book, you're going to miss a lot of the details and potentially apply scripture inaccurately and share it with other people inaccurately as well.
Right.
So